On Canada Day, my son stood in the driveway of my lakefront property and said, "Dad, you're 64. You've had your turn. It's time to step aside and let us build something here." His wife Lauren nodded, arms crossed, while their twins played on the dock I'd built with my own hands 30 years ago. That's when I understood I'd spent 6 years and $400,000 supporting a family that saw me as nothing more than an obstacle to their inheritance. So I did something they never saw coming. I transferred the cottage to them, sold my Toronto house for $2.1 million, and bought a one-way ticket to Crete. What I left in that safety deposit box, they're still discovering piece by piece. Before I go further, I should mention I'm recording this from a small taverna in Chania, where the Mediterranean laps against Venetian walls, and the locals know me as Thomas, the Canadian who swims every morning at dawn. But let me start at the beginning, because the beginning explains how I went from Richard Brennan, successful contractor with a loving family, to a man drinking Greek coffee 5,000 kilometers from everything he built. The smell of barbecue filled the backyard. July 1st, and Connor insisted we do the full Canada Day spread at the cottage. Burgers, ribs, corn on the cob, the works. I'd driven up from Toronto at 6 in the morning, stopped at the market for supplies, spent 3 hours prepping food for 15 people. My daughter Sarah was supposed to come with her husband and kids, but she'd texted that morning saying something came up. Again. That left me with Connor, Lauren, and their 8-year-old twins, Maddie and Owen. The cottage sat on 2 acres of prime Muskoka waterfront. I'd bought the land in 1987 for $73,000, back when I was just getting my construction business off the ground. Diane and I had camped on the property that first summer, clearing brush, dreaming about the cabin we'd build. Took us 3 years of weekends, but we built it ourselves. Every beam, every nail, every window frame. Our sweat equity. Diane died of an aneurysm 4 years ago. Sudden. She was planting tomatoes in the garden, and then she wasn't there anymore. 60 years old. We'd planned to retire together, sell the Toronto house, live at the cottage full-time. Instead, I got a funeral and an empty house, and the particular silence that comes when your partner of 37 years disappears from every room. Connor and his family had been temporarily staying at the cottage for 6 years now. Started right after the twins were born, when Lauren went on mat leave, and money got tight. Just for a year, Dad, until we get our feet under us. That was 2018. It's 2024 now, and they're still here, living rent-free in the 4-bedroom lakefront property while I maintained my empty house in Toronto. I pulled the envelope from my jacket. Inside was a certified check for $25,000. Connor had called 3 weeks earlier, voice tight with that particular stress that usually preceded asking for money. Property taxes were due. The cottage taxes. $6,000. I'd already paid them, like I did every year. But Connor didn't know that yet. I'd decided to give him money for general expenses instead. Be generous. Be the good dad. "Connor," I said, flipping burgers on the grill I'd bought. "Happy Canada Day. Got something for you." He took the envelope without looking up from his phone, tore it open with his thumb while Lauren supervised the kids on the dock. The twins were wearing life jackets I'd purchased last summer. Maddie was excited about the new kayak I'd bought them for their birthday. Owen wanted to show me the fort he'd built in the woods, using tools from my workshop. Connor's eyes scanned the check. His face didn't change. Not a smile, not even acknowledgement. Just nothing. 25 grand. The words came out flat. That's it? Something cold moved through my chest. I thought it would help with expenses. The property taxes, maybe some renovations you mentioned. Dad. Connor looked up then, and his eyes had that edge I'd been seeing more and more lately. We need to talk. Seriously talk. Lauren walked up from the dock, timing too perfect to be coincidental. They'd planned this. About what? I kept my voice level, flipped a burger that didn't need flipping. About this place. About us. About you. Connor gestured around the property with the envelope. We've been living here for 6 years, Dad. 6 years. We've raised our kids here. This is their home. But it's still your cottage, your rules, your decisions about everything. You live here rent-free, I said quietly. I pay the property taxes, the insurance, The utilities, the maintenance. Exactly. Lauren's voice cut in, sharp. That's exactly the problem. We're 42 years old, Richard. We can't live our lives waiting for permission. We can't make real plans, because this isn't ours. I looked at them, really looked. When had Connor, my son, who used to help me frame houses during summer breaks, become this? When had asking for help become demanding ownership? What do you want? I asked. Connor and Lauren exchanged a glance. That look couples get when they've rehearsed something. We want you to transfer the cottage to us. Connor's voice was steady, like he was presenting a reasonable business proposal. You're 64. You've had your turn with this place. You and Mom built it. You enjoyed it. But you're retired now. You don't even use it most of the time. You live in Toronto. We live here. We're raising our family here. It makes sense for this to be ours now. The burgers were burning. I could smell it. Didn't move to fix it. Step aside and let us build something here, Lauren added. You've had your life. Let us have ours. Those words. You've had your life. Like I was done. Like at 64, I should just fold up and disappear, so they could inherit what I'd built. And if I say no? My voice came from somewhere far away. Connor's jaw tightened. Then we need to have difficult conversations about our future. We can't keep living in limbo. We have options. Job opportunities in Vancouver. Lauren's sister has space. We need stability, Dad. Real stability. Not this month-to-month uncertainty where you could change your mind anytime. It wasn't month to month. It was 6 years of free housing. 6 years of me driving up every other weekend to fix things, maintain things, pay for things. 6 years of gradually being pushed out of my own property because I was always showing up unannounced or rearranging things or being too loud in the mornings. The twins ran up from the dock. Grandpa, when are the burgers ready? Maddie's face was sunburned and happy. Soon, sweetheart. I found my smile for her. Go wash your hands. They ran inside, screen doors slamming. The sound Diane and I had heard 1,000 times with our own kids. I need some air, I said. Dad, we're not done talking. Connor stepped forward. I am. I set down the spatula, walked past them, down to the dock. Behind me, I heard Lauren mutter something. Connor's response was too quiet to hear, but the tone was clear. Frustration. Impatience. I sat at the end of the dock, feet dangling over water that held 30 years of memories, teaching Connor to swim right here. Sarah's first fish, caught from this very spot. Diane reading books in the Muskoka chair every evening, glass of wine in hand. The loons calling at sunset. The northern lights we'd seen one September night, sitting in this exact spot. You've had your life. Let us have ours. I was 64 years old. My wife was dead. My daughter barely spoke to me since the inheritance disputes after Diane's death. And my son wanted me to sign over the property I'd built with my own hands so he could have stability. The water was calm. A family of ducks paddled past. Everything looked peaceful. Everything felt like breaking glass. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, looked at numbers I already knew by heart. The construction business had sold for $1.8 million 3 years ago. Conservative investments, pension, savings. Total liquid assets, $3.4 million. The Toronto house was worth 2.1. The cottage, according to the latest assessment, 1.7. Total net worth, $7.2 million. And my son thought $25,000 was disappointing. That night, back in Toronto, I couldn't sleep. Lay in the bed I'd shared with Diane, staring at ceiling shadows. Her side of the bed still felt wrong, empty, even after 4 years. At 2 a.m, I got up, went to my office, opened files, started calculating. 6 years of rent for a 4-bedroom Muskoka cottage. Conservative estimate, $3,500 a month. Times 72 months, $252,000. Property taxes, $6,000 annually. Times 6, $36,000. Insurance, $4,000 annually. $24,000. Utilities, internet, phone, maintenance, snow removal, lawn care, dock repairs, new roof 2 years ago, new furnace last year, another $80,000, conservatively. Then the extras. The down payment I'd given Connor for his business venture that failed, $40,000. The car I'd bought when theirs died, $22,000. The endless emergencies I'd covered, conservative total, another $75,000. Grand total, $489,000. Nearly $500,000. And they wanted the cottage too. Not as a gift, but as something they were owed. Something I should step aside and let them have. I opened my laptop, started researching. Greece. I'd always wanted to go. Diane and I had talked about it. Never made it. Cancer took her mother the year we'd planned the trip, and then life happened, and then Diane was gone. Crete. Chania specifically. Venetian harbor, mountain villages, beaches. Cost of living a fraction of Toronto. A person could live well on 40,000 Canadian a year. Very well. I found an apartment listing. 2 bedrooms, sea view, furnished. €600 a month. About 900 Canadian. Available immediately. Looked up flights. Toronto to Athens. Connecting to Chania. $1,700 one way. Checked visa requirements. Canadians could stay 90 days tourist or apply for residence permit. With my pension and investments, I'd qualify easily. At 4 in the morning, I sent an email to my lawyer, Paul Mitchell. We'd known each other 40 years, built half of Toronto together, back in the day. Paul, need to discuss property transfers and estate planning. Also need to understand my options regarding the Muskoka cottage. Current occupants are family. No lease, no rent. What are my rights? His response came at 8:30. In the office at 9 if you want to talk. I was there at 8:45. Richard, what's going on? Paul gestured to the chair across from his desk. You sounded stressed. I told him everything. The 6 years of free housing, the demands, the you've had your life comment, the expectation that I should just hand over a property worth $1.7 million. Paul was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out a legal pad. Legally, they have almost no rights. No lease means month-to-month occupancy at best. You could give them 60 days notice to vacate, and that's that. They can't fight it. They've contributed nothing, paid nothing, have no equity stake. Even though they've lived there 6 years, doesn't matter. You own it outright. You've allowed them to stay. That's generosity, not obligation. Paul leaned forward. But Richard, this is your son, your grandkids. You sure you want to go this route? Paul, they don't see me as family. They see me as an expired resource. I've spent nearly $500,000 supporting them, and their response is to demand I sign over more. What do you want to do? I thought about that. About Diane. About what she would say. She'd said it before, actually, when Connor first asked to stay at the cottage. Be careful, Rich. Help. Don't enable. There's a difference. I want the cottage back. I want to sell the Toronto house. I want to start over somewhere that doesn't constantly remind me of everything I've lost. Greece? He'd seen my laptop screen. Greece, I confirmed. Paul nodded slowly. I'll draw up the paperwork. 60-day notice to vacate. Transfer of ownership to yourself with clear title, just to document everything. And Richard, document every expense. Every dollar you've spent on them, on the cottage, everything. If this goes bad, you'll need proof. We spent 3 hours going through everything. By lunch, I had a plan. By end of week, I had documents. The notice to vacate was delivered by registered mail on July 8th. I didn't hand it to them personally. Couldn't face it yet, but I made sure it was legally airtight. Connor called 17 times that day. I didn't answer. Lauren sent texts ranging from confused to angry to threatening. I didn't respond. Finally, at 9 that night, I picked up. Dad, what the hell is this? Connor's voice was raw. You're evicting us? Your own family? I'm reclaiming my property. There's a difference. Over what? Because we asked for something that makes sense? Because we want stability for our kids? Connor, you didn't ask. You demanded. You told me I'd had my life and should step aside. Like I'm already dead. Like at 64. My only purpose is to hand over everything I built so you can have it without earning it. We've lived there 6 years. Rent-free. For 6 years. I've spent $489,000 supporting you. I have spreadsheets, every dollar tracked. Silence. You were counting? His voice changed. You were keeping score this whole time? No. I was being a father, helping my son. But when my son tells me I've had my life and should step aside, I start thinking about numbers. About what help actually means versus what exploitation looks like. Dad, I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. You meant exactly that. You and Lauren have been planning this. I saw it in your faces. You'd rehearsed it. We just wanted security, then get jobs that provide it. Pay rent, build equity, do what I did, what your mother and I did. We built that cottage with our own hands, Connor. Every board, every nail, while working full-time and raising 2 kids. Don't tell me about security and hard work. So that's it? You're throwing us out? I'm giving you 60 days to find other arrangements. That's more than legal requirement. That's me being generous. Still, even now. What about the kids? Maddie and Owen? This is the only home they really know. And that's my fault? I kept my voice level. You chose to raise them in a property that wasn't yours. You chose not to build your own stability. Those are your choices, Connor. Not mine to fix. I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe you told your 64-year-old widowed father that he's had his life and should step aside. But here we are. I ended the call, turned off the phone, sat in silence for an hour. Then I did something I should have done years ago. I called Sarah. My daughter answered on the 3rd ring. Dad, you never call this late. Everything okay? No, sweetheart. It's not. Can we talk? We talked for 2 hours. I told her everything. The money I'd given Connor over the years, the cottage situation, the Canada Day conversation, the eviction notice. Sarah was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Dad, I'm so sorry. For what? For not being there more. For letting the estate stuff after Mom died create distance between us. For not seeing what Connor was doing. The estate stuff. After Diane died, I'd split everything 50-50 between the kids. But Connor had demanded more, arguing that Sarah's husband made good money and they didn't need it. Sarah had been hurt. I'd stood firm on equal splits, and Connor had made family gatherings uncomfortable ever since. Sarah had just stopped coming. You didn't do anything wrong, Sarah. Neither did you, Dad. You were being generous. Connor took advantage. That's on him, not you. I'm thinking about selling the Toronto house. Moving away. Away? Where? Greece. Crete, specifically. She laughed, surprised. Really? Your mother and I always wanted to go. Never made it. I figure, why not now? I'm 64, not dead, despite what your brother thinks. I think that's amazing, Dad. Seriously, do it. You don't think I'm running away? From what? A son who treats you like an ATM? A city full of memories that hurt? Dad, you've spent 4 years grieving and 6 years being used. Maybe it's time to live for yourself. We talked until midnight. Made plans for her to visit before I left. Actually made plans, with dates, not vague, someday promises. The next morning, I listed the Toronto house. Priced it right, good neighborhood, well-maintained, had offers within a week, accepted one for $2.1 million, all cash, fast close. Called the apartment owner in Crete, Maria, a Greek-Canadian who'd retired there 5 years earlier. We talked for an hour. She held the apartment for me. Accepted first and last month rent by wire transfer. Booked the flight. One way. Departure August 15th. 6 weeks away. Started packing. Went through 37 years of accumulated life. Photos got scanned and digitized. Diane's jewelry went to Sarah. Most of the furniture got sold or donated. I kept 2 suitcases worth of clothes, my laptop, important documents, and a small wooden box Diane had given me on our 10th anniversary. It held love letters, concert ticket stubs, dried flowers from our first Valentine's Day. The accumulated evidence that I'd been loved once, that I'd mattered to someone. Connor tried calling every day. I didn't answer. Lauren sent emails. Ignored them. They had 60 days. They'd figure it out. Paul handled the cottage documentation. Clear title in my name. Registered. Sealed. No ambiguity. Then I made a decision that surprised even me. Paul, I want to transfer the cottage ownership. To Connor? Paul's voice was careful. Richard, are you sure? Not to Connor. To a trust. Specifically, a trust for Maddie and Owen. They can't access it until they're 25. At that point, they can decide what to do with it. Sell it, keep it, whatever. But Connor and Lauren can't touch it. They have to be out by September 8th. After that, the property sits empty, maintained by a property management company, until the twins turn 25. That's 17 years of maintenance costs. I'm aware. I can afford it. I want my grandchildren to have something real, something they inherit properly, at an age where they can appreciate it, not something their parents guilt me into handing over early. Paul was quiet. Then he said, Diane would approve. Yeah, she would. The transfer happened on July 25th. The cottage was now held in an irrevocable trust for my grandchildren. Connor and Lauren were listed as having no claim, no access, no rights to the property beyond their 60-day occupancy period. I had Paul send them a registered letter explaining everything. The trust, the timeline, the fact that they'd have no access to the property after September 8th, and neither would I. It would sit empty, maintained and waiting, until Maddie and Owen turned 25. Connor showed up at my Toronto house 2 days later, pounded on the door until I answered. Are you insane? His face was red. You're locking up $1 million property for 17 years, instead of giving it to us? Instead of giving it to you for free. Yes. I stood in the doorway. Didn't invite him in. It's going to your children. When they're old enough to understand what it means. We could be building equity. We could be securing our future. Build your own future, Connor, like I did, like everyone does. You're being vindictive. I'm being fair. You and Lauren told me I'd had my life. You wanted me to step aside. So I did, stepped completely aside. The cottage isn't mine anymore, and it isn't yours. It's your children's, and it will wait for them. What are we supposed to do? Find housing you can afford. Get jobs that support your lifestyle. Figure it out. You're 42 years old, Connor. With 2 degrees and work experience. You'll survive. Where are you even going? He looked past me into the house, saw the boxes. You're moving? Greece. Greece? Like the country? That's the one. For how long? Indefinitely. You're just leaving? Running away? I'm starting over. There's a difference. I'm 64, Connor. Your mother is dead. My business is sold. You've made it clear I'm not wanted or needed here. So I'm going somewhere I can live on my own terms. What about us? What about Maddie and Owen? What about them? I kept my voice level. You've been using them as emotional leverage for 6 years. Think of the kids, Dad. The kids need stability. Well, I thought of them. They'll get the cottage when they're 25. Clean inheritance. No strings. No parents who see it as their entitlement. We're family. Family doesn't tell each other they've had their life and should step aside. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Couldn't argue with his own words. You have until September 8th, I said. After that, locks change. Security system activates. Property management takes over. Don't damage anything. Don't take anything that isn't yours. The inventory is documented. I closed the door. Stood there, listening to him, pound it 3 more times. Then, silence. Then, his car starting. Then, nothing. The Toronto house closed on August 10th. 2.1 million deposited into my account. After lawyer fees and taxes, I cleared 1.9. Added to my existing investments, I was looking at 5.3 million in liquid assets, enough to live very well for the rest of my life. 5 days before my flight, Sarah came to visit. We had dinner at the cottage one last time, just us. She brought her kids, my other grandchildren, 10 and 12. We swam, had a bonfire, told stories about their grandmother. Are you really leaving, Grandpa? My grandson Jake asked. Really leaving. Will you come back? To visit, sure. But I'm going to live there now, in Greece. That's so cool. My granddaughter Emma smiled. Can we visit you? Anytime. I've got a spare bedroom. You're always welcome. Sarah and I walked down to the dock after the kids went to bed. Sat in the same spot I'd sat on Canada Day. You're doing the right thing, Dad. Doesn't feel like it sometimes. Connor's an adult. He made his choices. She put her hand on mine. And Mom would be proud of you. Starting over. Choosing yourself. She'd love that. I miss her. I know. Me too. We sat there until the loons started calling. Then we walked back up to the cottage I'd never sleep in again. August 15th arrived with rain. Appropriate, somehow. Sarah drove me to the airport, helped me check my 2 suitcases. Call me when you land, she said, hugging me. And Dad, have the life you deserve. Not the one Connor thinks you should have. The flight to Athens was 11 hours. I slept most of it, exhausted from weeks of preparation, from months of emotional weight, from years of being slowly erased in my own life. Landed in Athens, caught the connecting flight to Chania. 3 hours of flying over islands and blue water that looked impossible. Chania appeared at sunset, white buildings with terracotta roofs climbing up from a harbor, mountains in the distance, olive groves and cypress trees. The plane descended and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Anticipation, possibility. Maria met me at the airport, 70, energetic, with a smile that crinkled her whole face. Welcome to Crete, Richard. You're gonna love it here. The apartment was in the old town. Stone building, 300 years old, with wooden shutters and a balcony overlooking narrow streets. Inside was simple. 2 bedrooms, kitchen, bathroom, living space. But that balcony looked out at Venetian walls and the sea beyond. I stood there for an hour that first night, breathing salt air, listening to Greek conversations float up from tavernas below, watching fishing boats bob in the harbor. Somewhere 5,000 kilometers away, Connor and Lauren were packing up the cottage. Somewhere, my grandchildren were confused about why Grandpa left. Somewhere, my old life was ending. But here, right here, something new was beginning. The first month was adjustment, learning Greek basics, figuring out grocery stores, finding the bakery that made the best bread, discovering that coffee here meant sitting, talking, watching the world, not rushing. Met other expats at a small cafe called Micro. Brits and Germans and Canadians and Americans, all of us reinventing ourselves in this ancient place. They didn't know I was a contractor or a widower, or that I'd just severed ties with my son. I was just Thomas, the Canadian learning Greek, who swam every morning and liked his coffee strong. Started swimming at dawn, every single day. Walking to the Venetian harbor, diving into water that was cold enough to make me gasp, swimming out past the lighthouse, coming back to shore feeling alive in a way I hadn't felt since Diane died. Maybe before that. Met a woman too, Christina, Greek, 62, ran a small bookshop in the old town. Widow like me. We started as friendly acquaintances, who both showed up at Micro Cafe every afternoon. Then book recommendations. Then dinners. Nothing serious. Just company. Good company. You seem lighter, she said one evening, over grilled octopus and wine. When you first came, you carried something heavy. Now, less. I feel lighter. Like I've been holding my breath for years and finally exhaled. Your family? I told her the basics. She'd nodded knowingly. Her son had done something similar, expected her to sell her house and give him the money. She'd refused. They hadn't spoken in 3 years. Do you regret it? I asked. I regret that it was necessary, but I don't regret doing it. She sipped her wine. Some lessons our children have to learn the hard way, and some boundaries we have to enforce for ourselves, not for them. September 8th came and went. Paul emailed that Connor and Lauren had vacated on time. Left the cottage reasonably clean. Minor damage to a wall, but nothing major. Keys had been turned over. Property was now under management company care. Security system active. Everything locked down until 2041, when the twins turned 25. I read the email on my balcony, morning coffee in hand, watching fishing boats head out. Felt nothing. No triumph, no regret. Just acknowledgement that one chapter had closed. 3 months in Crete, and my life had shape. Mornings, swim, Greek lesson, coffee at Micro. Afternoons, walk, read. Sometimes help Christina at her bookshop. Evenings. Cook. Sit on the balcony, watch sunsets that never got old. Started writing too. A blog about starting over at 64. About choosing yourself when family sees you as obligation. About finding purpose when everyone tells you you've had your life. Small audience but growing. People wrote comments about their own situations. I responded to everyone. Community built from shared understanding. Then, in November, the email came. From Maddie. Subject line, Grandpa. Dear Grandpa Thomas, Mom gave me your email. She said you're in Greece. I'm 8.5 now. I miss you. Dad and Mom told us about the cottage, that we can't live there anymore, that it's in a trust for me and Owen. I don't really understand, but Dad seems mad about it. I miss swimming at the cottage. I miss building forts in the woods. I miss you. Are you mad at us? Mom says you're mad. Dad doesn't talk about it. I hope you're happy in Greece. My teacher showed us where Crete is on a map. It looks pretty. Love, Maddie. I read it 7 times. Checked the email. It was from Maddie's school account, not Connor's or Lauren's. She'd written it herself. Sat on my balcony for an hour, watching the Mediterranean, thinking she was 8 years old, innocent in all this. She'd lost access to her childhood home and her grandfather because her parents were entitled. Christina found me there. What's wrong? I showed her the email. She read it carefully. What will you do? I don't know. Part of me wants to respond. She's my granddaughter. But part of me knows Connor and Lauren will try to use it as leverage. What does your heart say? I closed my eyes, felt the sun, heard the water. My heart says, Maddie deserves a relationship with her grandfather. But it has to be on my terms. Direct relationship. No using her to manipulate me. Then tell her that. I wrote the reply carefully. Dear Maddie, I'm not mad at you or Owen. Not at all. I love you both very much. I'm mad at some choices your mom and dad made. Grown-up stuff that's complicated. But that's between me and them. It has nothing to do with you. The cottage is in a trust for you and Owen. That means when you turn 25, it will be yours. You can decide what to do with it. Keep it, sell it, share it. That's 17 years from now. I know that seems like forever when you're 8. I'm happy in Greece. It's beautiful here. I swim every morning. I'm learning Greek. I have new friends. I'm choosing to live my life in a way that makes me happy. You can email me anytime. Just you, not through your parents. This is between us, me and you, and Owen. I'm still your grandpa. That doesn't change. But I'm also Thomas, a person who deserves respect and choice. Both things are true. Love, Grandpa Thomas. Hit send before I could overthink it. Her response came 2 days later. Can we video call? Saturdays work for me. That's when Mom and Dad take us to activities, and I have my iPad. We video called that Saturday. Seeing her face made my throat tight. She'd grown, lost a tooth, hair in braids. We talked for 30 minutes. She told me about school, about her friends, about the new house they'd moved to. Smaller, she said, but Dad says it's temporary. I told her about Crete, about the sea, about learning to say good morning in Greek, about the stray cat that had adopted me. Are you coming back to Canada? She asked. Maybe to visit. But I live here now. That's okay. Can we keep calling every week? If you want to. I want to. Then we will. She waved goodbye. Screen went dark. I sat there feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Connected. But on my terms. Not being used. Just being grandpa to a granddaughter who missed me. It wasn't perfect. Perfect would have been Connor apologizing, understanding, rebuilding trust. But perfect wasn't available. This was available. This small connection that didn't cost my dignity. Now, sitting in this taverna in Chania, 6 months after leaving Canada, I watch Greek fishermen mend nets in the harbor. The sun is warm. My coffee is exactly right. Christina will meet me in an hour for lunch. Maddie and I have our video call scheduled for tomorrow. The cottage sits empty, waiting for my grandchildren to grow up. The Toronto house belongs to someone else. My son hasn't contacted me in 4 months. My daughter visits next month, bringing her family for spring break. I'm 64 years old. I swim in the Mediterranean every morning. I'm conversational in Greek. I'm writing things people read. I'm building a life with people who see me as Thomas, not as a resource to be depleted. And every morning when I dive into that cold water and surface gasping and alive, I remember, I haven't had my life. I'm having it right now. Finally having it. On my own terms. Retirement isn't the end. It's just another beginning if you let it be. And sometimes choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. If you've made it this far in my story, maybe you're in a similar situation. Maybe someone has told you, explicitly or implicitly, that your worth ended when your usefulness did. Maybe family treats you like an obligation instead of a person. Here's what I learned. Your purpose isn't determined by who needs you. Your purpose is determined by you being alive and choosing how to live. That's it. That's everything. I'm 64, not dead. I'm learning a new language in a foreign country. I'm terrible at Greek grammar, but getting better. I'm writing about second chances. I'm building friendships with people who see me. And every morning on my balcony, in Chania, watching the Mediterranean crash against Venetian walls, I remember, I have a purpose. I always did. I just had to stop letting other people erase it. The fishermen are heading out now. The taverna is filling with morning regulars. My coffee cup is almost empty. Time to order another. Maybe some bugazza to go with it. Christina says I eat too many sweets, but she smiles when she says it. I have nowhere I need to be. No one I need to satisfy. No expectations except my own. Turns out, that's exactly the point.